It's Friday, May 22nd, 2020, and this is Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thanks for joining us today. We appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Wherever you found us, hit that subscribe button. Join the show. We're here every single weekday, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and more. But today is a special show because as we're going into this Memorial Day weekend, we wanted to replay some of our favorite interviews that have happened while we're in quarantine. While we've been going through this pandemic, we've actually talked to a lot of really, really great guests. People like Dennis Quaid, like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Bob Saget. We're playing all of their interviews here on this episode today, so you can join in with us and join the discussions. So that's coming up. But before we get to that, we also have to acknowledge that we're coming into Memorial Day, and that means there's lots of sales that are happening. And here at Digital Trends, we like to keep up with everything that is going on and make sure that you know what some of those sales are. And to talk about that right now, we've got joining us for the first time ever on Digital Trends Live, our own Ihab Zaraya. Hello, how's it going? Thanks for being here, number one. And also, I am excited to find out about what all we have here for Memorial Day. So I know we've got some tips and tricks to talk about.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show for the very first time. I'm really excited to be here and to talk about Memorial Day. This year is actually a very unique year for so many reasons, obviously around coronavirus, but specifically for shopping, where brick and mortar stores around this time, around all 3-day weekends, what they typically do is they'll try to get people into the door shopping on their big promotional sales. But this year, that's not an option. So it's actually a good thing for shoppers because instead of having to be in one store looking for the best deals that that store has to offer, you can be home on your computer with multiple tabs open, looking for a specific product and seeing who has the best deal. So it's actually an advantage to shoppers, especially if they already know what they want. And so for tips, I would say definitely go into this shopping weekend knowing what you want. Take some time and do a little bit of price research to figure out how much that product was already going for and have an idea of what that price that you're willing to pay for is. So as soon as you see it, you jump on it because oftentimes the prices do change, especially with merchants like Amazon and eBay, where not just the merchant sites, but also the third-party sellers can change the prices based on whether a product is running low on stock or based on if they have tons of stock and they want to push it. So if they're running out of stock, they may increase the price, and you could have missed out on a great opportunity. Or if they have tons of stock and they're trying to really push hard, they might drop those prices. And when they do, you want to know and you want to jump on that as soon as you can. If you don't know what is a good price for a product you're looking for, that's what we're here for. We're doing that type of research on a daily basis. We're looking at the types of products that people are looking for continuously, and then we're seeing when those products drop to a price that we haven't seen it before, or at least at a price that is reasonable and worth, a consumer to maybe jump on.
Right. Yeah, I know that's why we've got the site set up too. We've got all kinds of different deals. I know there's different categories, like if you're looking for electronics or you're looking for a TV, like you said, or headphones or really anything, even outdoor gear. We've got mattress gear and all that stuff. And because, Digital Trends, because everybody's here looking for those deals, it's a really great place to go to and follow along with that link to stay up to date with it. And I do think it's interesting you said that the prices change a lot and fluctuate. So does that mean somebody, if they know what they want, they should check back on it throughout the weekend, just kind of monitor where the price is at and wait for the good price to show up?
Yeah, I think so. That's why I think it's important to know what price you're willing to pay for something. So if you're monitoring the prices and you see it hit that price point that you're like, okay, that's definitely cheaper than what I have been seeing it, I would say jump on that. You don't want to wait and keep holding out to see if it's going to drop lower, because what's been happening, especially since the coronavirus lockdown, is that there's been a fulfillment issue across multiple retailers where they've been running out of stock across the board, as many people have been forced to work from home, creating new opportunities or new things that they need to buy. And so for a lot of these merchants, they've been just selling out and haven't been able to keep up with stock. So if you see something drop to the price you're looking for, just go ahead and jump on it. And then on our site, what we're doing is we're tracking these throughout the day, throughout the weekend. And so when we see those prices drop, we're updating our articles and letting people know that what the new prices are and letting them know what products and services are worth jumping on. So I would say keep looking on those merchant sites, those retail sites, but also keep checking back with us because we're kind of doing that research for you. And we'll keep our articles up to date as much as we can.
That's what I like because for myself, I could try to go do it and look at all those sites. I know I would screw it up somehow, so I use our guides too personally. That's an endorsement and the honest truth. But I know we also have like the today's best deals, so some of those flash deals that'll show up too. So we've got some of those going on there. If there's something maybe you didn't realize that you wanted and you see it on there, get a good deal on it. Why not pick it up right there too? And that's all at our digitaltrends.com. Memorial Day Deals 2020 site. So it's right there for you to follow along with. And it's great. I want to say thank you very much for joining us. I know you and the entire team have been working very hard to find all this stuff. That is no joke. This team works really hard to make sure that all of this is up to date for you throughout this whole weekend. So follow along with that. And yeah, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate the shout out.
Oh yeah, definitely. So him and the whole team, they follow along with all of this. So it's really, really cool. And we've got a lot for you here, though, today on the show. A lot of great things to talk about because, like I said, we've had so many really amazing interviews that have happened here over the last couple of months, however long it's been that we've been going through all this. And so we've got some of those coming up. But we're going to go to break. We're going to come back, and we're going to have Dennis Quaid here. We're going to replay the Dennis Quaid interview where he's talking about the Dennaissance, his new show at the time that was launching. It's been out now, so we've got him here right here on Digital Trends Live. So stick around. Back here in a minute, right after this. Trends Live. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. I appreciate it. I'm Greg Nibbler. It's a lot of fun here doing this show every day. We get to have some really great interviews talking about all kinds of different things, and I'm very excited for this interview right now. So thanks wherever you're at. Hit that subscribe button, but let's talk about streaming content and entertainment is at such a premium right now, and there is a new podcast production company that's launching called Audio Up, and we have two very important people for that joining us right now. We've got Jared Gutstadt, who is the CEO and founder of Audio Up. Jared, thank you very much for joining us. And Dennis Quaid, somebody who really needs no introduction, but I'm doing it anyway. Jared, hello. Dennis, hello. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the new newsroom.
It's such an... Right? I know. I know. I'm here in a corner of my living room right now doing the work from home stuff. So I thank everybody for joining us. I know you two are at your respective areas, wherever you are, doing your social distancing. But let's talk about Audio Up. And Jared, I wanted to start with you. If you could just talk about the founding of this company, what your inspiration was, and maybe going from there to how you ended up connecting with Dennis Quaid for this.
All right. So this is an interesting story. Typically, I learn a lot by failing at other parts of media. And all through my music career, I wanted to put out a really special album that I'd been working on called Bear and a Banjo. It got rejected summarily by almost every single record label. It was a record I put together with Pooh Bear, believe it or not, T-Bone Burnett, who was famous for Crazy Heart and Oh Brother. And we got Bob Dylan into it. And after a while, I realized that this was a not an album. This was a soundtrack to a story that had not been written yet. Fast forward, I call up Dennis Quaid and I said, Dennis, we need to turn this into a movie for your ears. This is about a year and a half ago. And Dennis says, this sounds really interesting. What's it going to be about? I said, I'm not sure yet, but we're going to pitch it. We pitch it to iHeart Podcast Network, and it becomes a first of its kind, almost elevated concept album. And we went from pitching it in Las Vegas, believe it or not, where Dennis ended up meeting the love of his life and his fiance, Laura. And then all these amazing things happen. We perform the songs from the musical before the music is written at South by Southwest. A brand raises their hand and says, this is something we want to be doing. So at which point we're like, wow, there's a business here. We put the podcast out, and here we are, and we're going to do more audio up type stories, I call them. As much as we love the two hosts and the microphone model, we feel there's a whole world for elevated storytelling with music as the bedrock and really interesting elevated conversations, which is audio up.
Stories. That's what it's all. And it was T-Bone Burnett who put Jared and I together with us. And Bear to Banjo was the first podcast to also launch a record.
That's fascinating. So I love that idea, like a movie soundtrack for your ears, and just or how you're describing it, just essentially what you're coming up with, which is a unique concept that I feel like hasn't really been done exactly this way before. Now, Dennis, for you, I want to talk about the Dennaissance, and I want to get into that too, and talk about what you have going there. So I guess to start off with, are you an active podcast listener already? And if so, what ones were you listening to before this?
When Jared had asked me to be a part of this, I have to admit that I had barely listened to a podcast before. And so I did my homework, and I love the medium. A lot of what we're doing I can compare to radio plays that, from the 40s, when the family used to sit around and listen to stories and use their imagination, and music element attracted me very much as well.
And looking at that, I mean, you brought up T-Bone Burnett. I mean, that's such a huge person right there in this industry. But with your with the concept of your show in particular, can you tell us, how you came up with the name The Dennaissance, and what some of the inspiration was for these interviews?
Well, we thought about paying homage to Ellen and calling it Dennis Quaid is here, but I have a lot of interest outside of acting in my life. Having lived all these years, I'm a pilot. And through making movies, I've done research and been a baseball player. But being around like Jimmy Morris, I've been around Chuck Yeager, I've been around a lot of really incredible people from different facets of life, and that's who I want to talk to on the Dennaissance, to really get to talk to them, and at a time when they may not have something just to sell, and really get under the skin and find out who they are other than how we know them.
And one thing to add there is...
Yeah, I mean, and certainly you're at... Oh, go ahead, Jared.
Getting to know Dennis, every time I tell him about something I'm interested in, he'll be like, oh, I know the person who, was the first person who went to the moon, or the person who broke the sound barrier, or, the rookie. And I'm like, oh my God, like these stories. And after listening as a fan to even him going on other podcasts like Corolla and Marin, I realized, not just as a guest, but as someone who had access to all these amazing people. No one's doing that in podcasting. I think in the entertainment soundbite universe, there's a lot of, articles or quick quips out there about almost every celebrity. But the way that Dennis engages in this long-form storytelling is pretty unique.
And I think that's, just such a perfect point to make, too, is that, Dennis, you have been involved with all of these people, and so many different people at the same time that you can get that access. And I think what a lot of people like, too, when it comes to podcasts, and especially now, is getting behind the scenes. We can all see what somebody's doing, on a very public side, but what's the story behind the story, or what's something unique about them? And I know you focus on that, too. And I wanted to just kind of ask about, you have your... And I don't know if we can say any names on who's coming out on the interviews to start off with yet. I'll leave that to you. I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe you can walk through who some of the guests are that you have.
Well, so far we've done Billy Ray Cyrus. We've done Tanya Tucker. We are going to have people like Billy Bob Thornton. We're going to have politicians. We're going to have scientists, pilots. It's going to be a really interesting, assorted mix of people from all walks of life.
And that I think is just great too, like getting to hear some of those behind the scenes things and getting to talk to those kind of people. I mean, that right there is very varied. Just to start off with, Ray Cyrus, Billy Bob Thornton. I mean, looking at it, going forward, talking about your interview style, and since you do have such a personal connection, what kinds of things, just to give somebody just a little bit of a tease, like, is there something interesting that you find out during these things, or is it more recounting stories that you already know about?
Well, these people are my friends and acquaintances. So there are certain things that in life that maybe everybody does know about in their lives, but we really kind of get into a more personal talk about it and to get under the skin, because we have our own unique way of communicating. We did Billy Bush a couple of weeks ago, but he's also part of it, and to really get the story of what happened to him a few years ago, being really sent to what you call Hollywood jail for a time, and how that's been for him. He's making a comeback. I really love to focus on people who had some controversy as well, like Lance Armstrong. We're also going to be doing him to find out how they fared and where their story is. It's just stories were big at the time, and maybe now I'd like to follow up and see where they are now.
That's definitely interesting. I think that's the concept that you just put of Hollywood jail, which is something that a lot of people have gone through before. So I think, hearing the story of Billy Bush or Lance Armstrong, I mean, that's fascinating on its own. For you, you're interviewing your friends. I do want to ask, going forward with the Dennaissance, is there one person out there that would be like a dream interview for you personally to sit down and talk to?
I would love to talk to Bill Clinton. I spent a weekend in the White House with him. I considered myself an FOB, a friend of Bill at the time. He at a time in my life where I was really needing some connection and some advice to people, he was really great to me.
I would love to hear that interview. Dennis Quaid and Bill Clinton. Yeah, I will listen to that immediately. But Jared and Dennis too. I want to let everybody know. I want to let everybody know. Talking about with this launch and what's going to be happening. Like, where do people go to listen to it? Where can we direct people to find out?
So I can feel that one. That is, it's real easy. Go to anywhere where podcasts are distributed. Right now, Audio Up. The website, audioup.com/Dennaissance, has our all the trailers, and all the episodes will be listed there. But obviously, if you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it's all distributed to the major carriers, and we're excited. This is a big week for us. Dennis has such a unique voice, and I will say that the Billy Bush one, what he just mentioned, is just as someone who's listening in the room while we were recording it, these feel almost like novels or books or something like that, the way that Dennis gets in there. Yes, he's friends with a lot of these people, but he's able to wear such a different hat in this thing. And it was amazing hearing the story of somebody's life being shattered through a moment and how he reconstructed it. So I think there's a lot of just great storytelling, great reportage, and go to audioup.com/the Dennaissance.
Fantastic. Well, Jared and Dennis, thank you so much for joining us here. I can't wait to listen to these episodes, and revisit this and see where you're going. Yeah, thanks a lot for being here with us today on Digital Trends Live.
Podcasts are available. You can go and you can find Audio Up. You can or go to Audio Up on the website, and you can see our complete slate programs.
Nice. Dennis, thank you very much. Jared, thank you very much. Again, Audio Up. Everybody go check it out. How cool is that? Dennis Quaid right here on Digital Trends Live. That's part of what you get with tuning into this show. So I want to remind everybody again, hit subscribe. I know I say that a lot, but it saves you time. You get the notification when it pops up. So we've got more, though, on this show. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is on the way. But before that, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk to Bob Saget. Yes, Bob Saget has a podcast for you to help get everybody through this. He is a national treasure. He's here on the show. Stick around. Right back after this. Whatever platform you're on. And our next guest really doesn't need a long introduction, but I'll tell you, he's a Grammy-nominated comedian, he's a director, he's an actor, he's a writer, and now he is the host and star of Bob Saget's Here For You, the all-new first podcast ever hosted by a comedian. It is Bob Saget. Bob, thank you so much for being here. Something we're asking everybody, and I think we're really going to get into this, but how are you holding up during quarantine?
I'm fine. I'm wearing pants. I'm curious as to whether I might get the antibody test, but I don't know if I can get it. I'm trying. I'm more concerned with my daughters who are in New York and a lot of friends who are affected. So I've been just staying inside. My wife's here. She's trapped in the other room, which is good because she can't leave. But that's just trying to find humor in a rough situation that we're all feeling like, what? And I think we're going to get somewhere. I've been snorting Ajax and shooting up Fantastic Cleaner. They brought it back. Fantastic. So I'm excited. What's great about Zoom interviews is you can't hear laughs. And for a comedy kind of person, it's incredibly painful. How are you holding up? It looks like you have a butcher block table and a monitor.
Yes, that's actually a redwood tree that I cut down for my backyard. And yeah, I got the butcher block table going right here. So, holding up pretty good. With you, I want to talk about you, though, with this podcast. What was the inspiration behind this? How did this all start?
It's really interesting, but over the past 3 years, I decided I wasn't even going to go do stand-up again, and I put myself on a big tour because I really had a new hour all of a sudden and worked on it for a couple of years and was ready to shoot a special. And then I went, before the pandemic, it's a good time for a podcast. And I went with Studio 71, and of course, Apple Podcasts put it out. But the idea of it was with all the anger of everyone in the country and in the world and everybody being divided, I wanted to be a person that people could talk to. So I put up a phone number up in the upper menu of all the podcast things. I'm very tech oriented. And well, I'm doing this, so I am. And I got a cord coming out of my head, so I'm very professional. But I wanted to talk to actual people besides, whatever people would call my celebrity, I hate that word, friends that are funny or talented and known would be my celebrity. But I call people. I put a phone number up. I post on Instagram or Twitter. Please leave your message and I'll call you back and we'll see what's on your mind. It's been a lot of people that are in a rough spot, I'll call a nurse who lost a patient. I'll call, who has a autistic son, or I'll call a guy who's stoned for 35 minutes. And that's quite pleasurable. And I'll keep pumping him full of questions. And I won't be a narc. I'm not going to ask him who his dealer is. But and then I have a lot of friends helping me out. Stamos is I'm only on my second week right now of the whole thing. So I'm a newbie at the medium that everybody, that's why it says the first podcast hosted by a comedian ever, because everyone, my 3 neighbor kids across the street have podcasts. But the point is, I feel that people want to talk to me. And I've been feeling that for a long time from my stand-up. And I was doing my last special I shot in Brooklyn, which is under siege right now in a way. And at the end of the special, out of nowhere, someone said, "Bob, we need you." And because there was a lot of anger everywhere, as you know, and I just said, "As long as you need me, I'm here for you." And the crowd gave me a standing ovation on that, like I was Batman or something. And it meant something to me. It actually, I got emotional during the damn taping. And so that was the impetus for this. And then 2 weeks after shooting 2 episodes where I was able to have YouTube on the first 2 episodes, then I no more studio work. Got the board, had it delivered at home by Studio 71, and I've been recording ever since. And my guests are John Stamos, Tiffany Haddish, and Macaulay Culkin is tomorrow, and then Howie Mandel, who is the prophet on social distancing. You know, don't touch me. You can't. This isn't safe. You don't fist bump, right? And a lot of good guests: John Mayer, Jim Gaffigan. I'm talking to shortly, and Seth Green, and it's just a very special bunch of people. Nikki Glazer, people that I love, or is kind of how I'm approaching my interviews, or people that I'm getting close with through podcasts. I just did Anna Faris's podcast, and I went, "She's really cool." She said, "Can I? You want me to do yours?" I went, "Of course." So we're having conversations, and for people that are shy, which is a lot of performers, believe it or not, we enjoy communicating with each other as though it's a phone call. That was a 20-minute sentence.
And that's, I think, yeah, I mean, well, with all of these people that you know and just having these conversations with them, like you said, you're learning them through podcasts or you already knew them before. And I'll say I was listening to the show earlier today. It is fantastic. You are very comforting during this time. But with your interviews and who else, the access that you're getting with this and who you know, is there anybody that's like a dream interview get that you would like to talk to more than anybody else if you could pick one?
Probably, someone from ancient times, if I could, Abe Lincoln or Moses or Jesus, somebody, Buddha, Gandhi, Gandhi's not ancient times. I don't know. There's a lot of people that have. I probably like to talk to Oprah just because I've been on her show when she had a show, and she's pretty brilliant. I try to stay away from politics and religion because that tends to stress everybody out. And it's hard not to be stressed out because it affects where we're at right now with this. And also, I try to get people's minds off of the COVID-19, but it's very hard to do when I call people. And it's fun when I call a family and they're like, "Oh, what's interesting about it," I'm sure you're finding it also with talking to people, is that people are holed up together and you find out how the family's doing and, "Oh, I hate my mom." And then put your mom on. I'll talk to your mom. And I'm not a therapist. I'm a comedian that cares about people. That's kind of where it goes. And you're doing this. How long a broadcast are you every day?
We do about an hour every day, about an hour live here out of my basement for Digital Trends Live. So
well, you're lucky to have a
great.
basement.
I'm lucky that we have the ability to do this.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And you have different.
Yeah. So very, very lucky in that.
And you have a large audience, and it's very tech oriented, right? That's what we're dealing with, right?
Well, a little bit of everything, actually. We cover a lot, but yeah, definitely tech oriented. But for you too, actually going to that, talking about the tech side, you mentioned that now you have this board that you can do your podcast on.
Yeah.
For you personally, during this, what's the one piece of tech that you don't think you could live without during all of this?
Well, you got to have a microphone. But I mean, you learn different. I've been learning that that this is the answer to humanity right now. This little guy, that little. That's not an ad for Samsung, but these little chips are what you record 35 hours on this. That's the world we're in. I can record everything. Done something I pulled out of my nose. I mean, it's like. And then I guess I've learned just be very careful with that thing. Don't do what I just did. But I think it's just the signals have to be strong. You have to know your bandwidth. I had to improve the house bandwidth. A lot of people have problems. As I was on CNN one morning and I was promoting this very podcast, and in a different climate, this would be the kind of press I'd be doing for a television show. I would not be doing a podcast thing, but this is the world we're in, and if it comforts people. That's really, honestly, I'm passionate about it, but my signal was crappy. So a lot of people you'll see even doing the news, they have Wi-Fi and they're wireless and they're glitchy. And I was turning into a green goblin on CNN. And then all of a sudden I got 100-foot wire coming out of the modem closet, and I'm patched in right now. There's no wireless anything. You increase your bandwidth so you can run several things at once. I don't know if I'm coming in clear now, if I'm dragging at all. There's always a lag. But I guess that's what
it doesn't matter what the broadcast is. Everybody's dealing with that. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, no, you're coming through great. Something we wanted to ask, just a little different idea here, thinking about all these amazing roles that you've had and shows that you've been on. And this was a question we wanted to propose. So if you were to be quarantined with castmates, would you rather be quarantined with the Full House cast or the Entourage cast?
I guess the Full House cast, only because I've been with them more recently, although I love the Entourage cast. But if you're quarantined with the Entourage cast and it's as misogynistic as it was back in the day, and it's just a bunch of dudes, I can't sit on the couch with them and just talk about, I can't degrade. It's not the same time as when Entourage came out, whereas Full House, as you can see by this video that was put together, this was done, it was conceived by Jeff Frankel, the producer. And what's hilarious is this was edited by Candace Cameron Bure's daughter, Natasha, who's 21. She did all the production on it, and it went viral, which you don't want to say. That's the worst part, is to say we went viral, because it's a dark joke. But this thing was a sweet thing to do. And, it was all about, we all love each other. We stay on text trails with each other, and I stay in contact with the Entourage guys when I can, and see them. And that's a funny question though. Who would you rather be with? See, that's the two sides of me. That's like, one is a bunch of guys sitting around. We'd watch games. We'd probably be playing games all the time, just video games. We'd be watching misogynistic shows. There's it's a difference between wanting to just sit there and talk to your family or watch porn.
All right, now I can't answer it. But
no.
We had one more question. We have one more question for you too. Just talking about Full House and talking about comforting things to watch. And everybody loves Full House and Fuller House coming up here with this season that's going to be premiering. Anything you could tell us about that and what it's meant to you being a part of this kind of this rejuvenation of it that's been going on for the last few years?
It's interesting because I never thought the thing was going to come back. And John Stamos fought along with Jeff Franklin and Bob Boyette and Tom Miller, and they got the thing made with Warner Brothers and Netflix, and got 5 years. So this is June 2nd is the last 9 episodes. I always say the last one's my favorite. I've always made that horrible joke, but the truth of it is, it kind of is. It ends really beautifully for a show that people love it. Not everybody loves everything. The show was never reviewed well. The original series, people didn't like it because it was made for 14-year-old girls and families to watch together. And that's not usually who critiqued. I'm a genius on this podcast. People that critique television or don't necessarily watch a show like this, but it is one that brought people together, and it's a feel-good show, and it may be a two-dimensional show in some ways, but it still had family values to it. So I go back and forth between being an Entourage guy and a Full House guy, and Fuller House guy. And it was really nice that they did it. And Candace and Jody and Andrea, I was going to say my hat's off to them, but I don't wear hats. And I don't know why someone came off with that expression. Is probably from the 20s. So it's from the Great Depression, which was not great. I don't know if anybody looked it up. They're not calling this the Great Pandemic, I don't know. That was a stupid adjective on their part, but I'm very happy that we were able to bring back the series, and the main cast is only on it a few times each season, and that was the idea, which was to pass the torch. And now I guess we're going to come out on Viewmaster and Flipbooks or Microfiche. I don't know. I always was joking that the sequel will be Fullest House, and it'll just be me in an urn by the window. That was the joke. But I like your plan.
Get to syndication, and that could happen. Well,
so there's
Bob,
no syndication
I want
with
to say,
the streaming. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Please talk. I apologize.
no, you're right. No, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. Thank you for doing your podcast too. I mean, seriously, I was listening to it today while I was doing all the prep for this show. It's great. You are comforting. You're a national treasure to listen to, and you're reaching out to people and you're doing something good for people, and it's really appreciated.
Thank you.
And
That's what I'm trying
I
to
say
do.
thank you personally.
Thank you. And what do they tell me? We always have to say the same thing. We always have to say that you have to subscribe and rate and review. Now, who the hell asks for a review? And then someone haters type XQLMO, I hate you. And they didn't listen to it. They just want to take your stars down, whatever. But I just, you can't, I don't care. I just want people to, get out of what they're listening to or make them feel better because they're not alone. We're not alone. We're all going through this and it'll change. And then the podcast,
and that's why
it's changing constantly. And what I'm doing now is changing constantly. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for doing what you do. And I will definitely be listening. Everybody out there, listen in. Let Bob help make you feel better during all this. Bob Saget, thank you so much for being here on Digital Trends Live with us.
Thanks for having me. You're an incredibly nice man. Did we talk before once on another thing on your other show?
I think we talked. I think we did. I'm here in Portland. Yeah, I think we've actually met before, but probably at Helium.
Yeah, I love Portland, and I remember talking to you. You're a very nice person. It's not an act, everybody. He's a very nice person.
Oh, thank you very much,
People
Bob Saget.
You can't really fake nice, can you? Yeah, you can. I used to, but I don't anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to pull it off. Bob, thank you. Thank you very much.
You too. Be well and all that safe stuff. Stay in the basement. I don't have a basement. I'm on a slab.
Yeah, I'll just stay in here. I don't leave here. I'm always at this camera.
Don't leave. Everybody's life is Silence of the Lambs. Sorry.
All right, now I'm going to get yelled at in my ear to move along. All right, Bob.
Move along,
Bob,
quick.
Thank you.
Hang up.
I could have talked to Bob Saget for hours, but that was the time that we had. I definitely suggest checking out his podcast. It is a lot of fun. And again, thanks everybody for joining us here today for this Friday show where we're playing some of our favorite interviews that we've had over the last couple of months. And there's been so many of them. And the next one, it's almost a double interview in one because it is Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Was able to sit down with him for a little bit of time, actually, and talk about Hit Record, talk about his life, get to see his studio. You get to see what Joseph Gordon-Levitt's studio looks like. That's pretty awesome. So that's coming up next. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks so much for joining us. You know our next guest from a myriad of television shows and incredible movies, but he's also the co-founder and CEO of Hit Record, a collaborative platform for artists and creators. And they're launching a new 6-episode series called Create Together, featuring artists from all over the world and hosted by our guest, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you joining. And I guess the first question I have to ask is something we're asking everybody is, how are you holding up during quarantine?
Yeah, thank you. Very grateful. Feeling very lucky to have a place to be and that I'm able to work from home. And certainly a lot of people are not so lucky on either of those fronts. And, just incredibly a lot of respect for the people out there that are doing the work that needs to be done and braving these difficult times. So thank you for asking. How are you? Is everybody good in your world?
I'm doing good. We were able to set up actually a whole studio here at my house. This is my house with a whole thing that we were able to do that and keep working. And that's what I actually wanted to ask you too, what your setup is like that you have right there. I can kind of see a little bit of it behind, but how is your studio set up?
Yeah, I mean, this is my my teenage self's dream room that when I bought my house, there's drums and there's like probably much more recording equipment than I really need, but it makes me very happy. It's the rec room, and I've had it for a number of years now, and it's sort of my office and my playroom, and especially working from home every day, all day, it's a pretty nice place to be. So it just gets back to like very grateful, feeling very lucky.
Well, going to that and talking about everybody working from home right now and everybody kind of trying to figure out ways to be creative, let's talk about the inspiration for Create Together and what kind of brought that to fruition.
Yeah, so I was in the middle of production, actually. I was shooting a TV show called Mr. Corman for Apple, which was going to, come out next year. And now I guess we'll see when we get to actually finish it and when it'll come out. But, we were in the thick of production, and the show, along with every other show and every other TV and film production, got put on pause. And so I was at home and said to myself, all right, if I'm going to like stay sane, I got to stay creative, and I'm just going to commit to doing something creative every day. And hit record makes that really doable, because I wanted to. It's hard for me sometimes to just like be creative all by myself. I grew up on sets. Sets are very collaborative places. You feed off of other people's creative energy. And if I were tasked with trying to stay creative at home by myself, that would be hard for me personally. But Hit Record is a community of people that I started many years ago, and it's all about people being creative together. So like, a lot of online platforms for art and creativity, people just post things that they've made on their own. But on Hit Record, it's less about look at what I made, and it's more about let's make something together. So it's really easy to get started doing stuff, because there's always someone who's got a project going and they're looking for, someone to write or someone to act or someone to draw or play music. And I like doing all those things. So I was just, on Hit Record every day doing something creative and making little videos about it. And seeing the community kind of rise up to this dark moment where everyone's feeling so isolated, it felt like this bizarre silver lining. I hate to say anything positive about this moment, because there's people that are really struggling, and there's people that are dying, so many every day. But in this moment, seeing this thing that I've been working on, and a lot of people have been working on for so many years, really provide something that a lot of people are needing right now, a chance to, in this moment, come together and be collaborative, and not just chat online, but actually make something together and have that profound connection that comes with collaborating on something creative, making art together. It's been really uplifting. And so seeing that happening just made me think we should be documenting this. This should be a show of some kind. And so we just really quickly put a pitch together, and we pitched it to YouTube Originals. This is our second thing that we're doing with them. We made a music documentary with them last year with the rapper Logic that I love, called Band Together. And so we're working with all the same people, and they're just like, this is really great, and it kind of got fast tracked, and now we're making the show, and the first episode's going to come out very soon, very, very, like, less than a month from now. And it's just all about how people are coping with this time by staying creative and doing it together.
Well, and I think that's fantastic what you're doing, but talking about this, with artists from all over the world, and you're creating 6 episodes, how are you going to make those determinations on what is in the show? Are there certain things you're looking for? How does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, so there's just stuff that's going on in our community all the time, and we don't want to make it about just what's the most ambitious and polished, finished work of art. We really want to make it more about people's stories of their lives right now, and how creativity is fitting into their lives, and how collaboration brings that kind of connection. So we're just, I was just on, with my producers today, and we're we're having to go fast because the stuff's gonna come out quick, and we're just like checking out all these different things that people are doing, and some of them are really simple collaborations, and some of them are more ambitious, and shining light on them, and getting people also to contribute not only their art but their own kind of personal stories. So there's like prompts on the site to like say, hey, tell us about yourself, tell us about your life right now and where creativity fits into your life, tell us a story about a project that you're working on. And so we're just really looking for a wide variety. We want as diverse a variety of people as possible. Diversity both in terms of like where people live, what kind of lives they're leading. Are they getting to stay at home, or are they out there working? Are they expert artists, or are they beginners just learning? We want really all of the above. And so those are the kinds of stories we're looking for.
Well, and there are so many different projects that are going on there, at all times. Are there any particular projects or collaborations that you've been following that you've really been enjoying watching them grow?
Well, the first one that comes to mind actually is it's a short documentary project that I've been talking about a lot in the last couple weeks online, and it started with this woman. She goes by Vicious Vixen in the community, and it started with this just little piece of writing from her. She's still working, and there were confirmed cases of COVID-19 in her workplace, and she was understandably feeling really stressed out about it. And she can't afford to quit her job, and her job is not the kind where she can work from home, and she's scared of catching something and bringing it home, but she can't quit. And it was a really potent reminder that not everybody is able to stay home. And, there's all this messaging out there, people saying, stay at home, save lives. And that's true. But we also have to remember that for a lot of people, staying at home is a luxury they can't afford. And it really made me all the more grateful for the experience I'm having, the life I'm getting to lead right now. And I was so struck with her writing, I suggested to her we should make a short documentary about this exact thing, about how economic inequality is impacting how different people are experiencing this pandemic. And so she and I are co-leading this short documentary project right now, and we've been getting contributions from so many different people, both people who are staying at home and then people who are not staying at home, and seeing the differences. And it's been really fascinating. And again, it's really been a recipe for gratitude for me. And so I'm interested to see how that short documentary comes together.
Something just to switch gears just a little bit, I did want to ask you, we talk about tech a lot on here, and just asking you this question: is there one piece of tech that you absolutely have to have?
Let's see. How about writing? How about the written word? We don't often think about the written word.
First time we've got that answer
as a technology, but I like to think about the fact that not that long ago there was no such thing as writing, and then at some point writing was invented, and you can read back like if you look at some of the old classical like ancient Greek stuff, they say that Socrates was like, oh, writing is going to be the end of us. Writing is like, no one's going to be good at thinking anymore because the written word is going to just put all of our thoughts into a cage. And in a way, that's probably true. The written word probably has really impacted how we think. But I'm a fan of the written word, and it's an older technology, but it's going strong. Large adoption, not a good business model. No one seems to be making any money off the tech anymore, if they ever did. But it's a strong tech. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, definitely the large adoption rate. You are very much right on that. Yeah, it's really, really proliferated. Okay, going along those lines, something else that we've kind of been talking to people about. We're all at home right now, and I feel like a lot of people are trying to try out maybe some older things that they haven't done in a while, whether it's baking bread or doing puzzles. I don't know how many people I know that are doing puzzles. Is there anything along those lines that you're doing since you've been quarantined?
The other day I drew for the first time in I don't know how long. And I like to fancy myself an artist of some kind, and even like not bad visually. Like I've directed some films and short films. I consider myself to have a good eye. I've always wanted to draw. I like the idea, but I never do it. I don't consider myself good at it. And so it was fun to sort of push myself. And again, hit record's good for that, because you can just go. If I was tasked with like draw something, I wouldn't know what even to draw. But so I went on hit record and we're just looking for projects something to inspire me to draw. And there's a project called 6-word stories, which are just really simple. People write a story in 6 words, and but then there's a challenge to illustrate someone else's story. So I found a 6-word story that I liked and drew an illustration of it, and it was really fun. It was really fun to draw. A little uncomfortable, because I'm used to when I go in for my creative time feeling more like confident and good at and like practiced at what I do. But drawing made me go, okay, well, I'm actually not good at this, so I have to figure out some other clever way to like make this drawing good somehow. And I think it turned out okay. I'm actually pretty proud of the drawing and had a good time doing it, more importantly than anything.
Well, I think that's awesome. So we're going from writing to drawing. I've just got like 2 more questions, and I know that you're busy, but I have to ask then about music, because I see the drum set behind you. I'm a musician too. Like, if you could collaborate to tie this all in with one musician of all time, who would it be?
Of all time?
All time. Any one of them.
Time. Oh man. I don't know. What should I say? Of all time, Louis Armstrong. How about Louis Armstrong? I bet that would just like swell up my heart. And like, if Louis Armstrong were here, if he came into my rec room, I just imagine that my smile would stay on for 2 weeks straight. Just that guy. He's just so like charming and good. And then, my boys would probably mistake him for Cookie Monster, because that, he's got that voice, that Louis Armstrong voice. So that would probably also be good. They're fans, so they'd get a kick out of meeting Louis Armstrong as well. Yeah. I'll go with Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong, solid answer. You nailed it right there. Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining us, and being a part of this and talking about this. And just, it's such an exciting thing that you're doing with this Create Together. It's so cool to see it bringing people together like this. For you, anything else that you want to let people know, maybe if there's somebody out there that wants to create that may be apprehensive, like you were with drawing, they're like, okay, I'm not very good at drawing. What would you tell them, to get over that hump?
Yeah, I mean, besides just coming to hit record, come to our site, download our app. I mean, I think what I would tell them is, don't focus on the likes or the followers or even the finished thing. Don't worry about that. I know that for me, in my life, I've been fortunate enough to be in a lot of different, creative projects, and it's never the finished thing that makes me happy. They're not the happiest. It's not, when you go to the premiere or when you get reviews or you see the box office, like none of that is actually, all that's more nerve-wracking for me anyway. What's beautiful, what's fun, what's like makes me so grateful to be an artist is the doing of it. And being on the set, being with other people, figuring it out, being challenged, being like, no, we're going to do this. Okay. And then you do it. And you're like, we did it. And you go into that focused place where you're just focused so hard on what you're doing that like, you're not worried about any of those other things. You're not worried about who's going to like it or how many followers you're going to get. Like, if you can get to that place where you're just focused on the joy of doing it, that you're on the right track. So that's, I guess that would be, if there's a piece of advice for someone who wants to do something creative, like don't worry about any of the other stuff. Just focus on the doing it.
Fantastic. Inspiring, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh,
Thank you so much. You know, I appreciate you being on here too and joining us here for Digital Trends Live. And again, create together. Go there, hitrecord.com. Join in with everything that they're doing. And I can't wait to watch the show to see what you come together with this. And thanks so much for being here on Digital Trends Live today.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, there we go. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's been joining along with us today. What a great show talking about those Memorial Day sales. I want to remind everybody that we've got you up to date with that all weekend long. So follow along. If you know what you want, follow us to get the best prices, find out when that happens. But if you don't know what you want, well, there's some great deals out there that maybe you want to find out about. So again, just go to digitaltrends.com to follow along with that. So thank you to everybody. I want to say for everybody out there to have a great Memorial Day weekend. We will be back on Memorial Day. We've got a special episode that's going to air then with some more great interviews that we've had. So we've got some entertainment for you on Monday morning. If you're hanging around, it's definitely something you want to watch. And that's why you want to hit that subscribe button. Whatever platform you're on, hit subscribe, share the show, let everybody know about it. Huge shout out to our Digital Trends Live crew, Mike, Kelsey, Jess, Jake, and of course, Mike and Lara. Thank you to all of them for making this show happen. And we really appreciate everybody who's been a part of it with us because that is you. So thank you. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. And we'll talk to you again on Monday with more Digital Trends Live.